Okay, so I keep getting a ton of questions about which of these bind and fly plug and play toothpicks that you can buy is the best one, and well, I'm kind of tired of answering the questions, so I'm going to just make a video. And here's 17 of them. This isn't even all of the ones that have appeared on my channel. These are just the ones I grabbed that were handy. There's more. Just check the toothpick playlist. This doesn't even include any of the custom built ones that you will probably see in that playlist as well. The stuff I'm going to talk about here will apply to those as well in general. And there's a couple more, like the SBC Maker Killer Whale, I think, and I think there's another one I forget that I don't even have yet. But I'm feeling that things I'm going to talk about here are going to also apply to any future toothpicks that are going to have similar specifications. I think that's one of the reasons why this is so confusing for people, is because a lot of these are very similar, and in fact I would have to say they're very, very similar. Now first, let's get these 3-inch ones out of the way here. So there's the Diatone 3-inch. They both have the, and then there's the iFlight 3-inch. They both have the HQ 3x2 prop. I would say that for both of these, the motors are too small for the 3-inch prop. It's okay, they're fast, especially in straight lines, and you're going to get that with anything that's a biblade. But in terms of flight characteristics, turning that, I think it's a little bit harder to fly because of the smaller motor. I would suggest these guys, if you are going to build something on a 3-inch, I would go with a 1304 motor is my recommendation for this prop, or a 1206 motor. 1105 and 1104 is definitely too small of a motor, and I don't recommend going to a 4S motor. I recommend sticking with a 3S at the most. I think 3S and 3-inch is going to be optimal for this weight class. So I think 3S on the Diatone is fine. The motor on here is a 4S motor, I think, for the iFlight, and I think that I flew it on 3S. Again, I'm not going to cover everything on every model. You can go watch those videos. The playlist link is going to be down in the description. So if there's things that are missing, that's because they're in those other videos, so go watch those. But anyway, I digress. In any case, these 3-inch ones are definitely going to be obviously faster with the bigger prop and everything, and a little bit heavier. So they are quite a bit different from the ones here that have the 65mm prop or the 2.5-inch props. So we'll just go ahead and we'll set these aside for now. Okay, so of the ones that are remaining here are on the 2 or 2.5-inch or 65mm prop versions. Let's just pull out some of the ones here that are kind of different from the rest. So I would say this one here, the full speed Toothpick Pro with the giant 1106 motors here and much heavier frame. This one is obviously not really in the toothpick class. It's just more of a very fast micro with very powerful motors. You can watch that video. This one, I don't think that most people will probably want to get this in terms of a toothpick, because it's just, the motors are just way too big for this size. So yeah, I'm going to set this one aside. And the other one that is pretty different is going to be the Sailfly X. This was like probably one of the first ones that came out, and this one's super light. You know, it's definitely one of the best sellers out there. Very fast. It does have some durability issues with the frame being kind of frail, and the motor is also breaking because the way the frame is. If you crash on concrete or something, you're going to probably break a motor and or the frame at the edge there. That's pretty common in this one. As well as this has the older Crazy board that has some issues with, I guess, failures, and that's why this one, as you can see, doesn't have the capacitor on the XT30. Should probably change that at some point, but that's why they've been adding those on the Sailfly X. If you have those, you're probably okay with the capacitor on there. That's what they're shipping with now, but this older one doesn't have that. But this is definitely a good performer, barring the durability issues and reliability issues. This one this is one, actually, this is the first one that I've gotten. I'm still flying it, and this is the original actually. And I had a few crashes, but I haven't crashed it on concrete yet. Just on grass, and it's been totally fine so far. Okay, so let me set these guys aside. This is the Gipper Rc Phantom and the Tiny Hawk Freestyle and the Larva X and the Tyro 69. Talk about those last, and there's a good reason for that. And we're going to just bunch the rest of these guys here into the same old, this is the same old group here. So we got the, gosh, I don't even remember some of these names, they're so unremarkable. So this is, I think, Sky Star something or another. I forget what the name of this one is here. Crap Soup or something, whatever. And then here is my E-Sheen Red Devil that I fixed. And out of the box, it's not a good flyer. Well, it's got a lot of jello, but if you repair it, if you saw my other video where I fixed it, it does fly much better now. And then we have the two iFlights, the 120 RS V2 and V1 over here. And then we got the BNF HX100. And this is the, crap, what's it? I just reviewed this one. HGLRC Parrot. You got the original full-speed Toothpick, and then we got the Diatune, I think this is the 229 here. And actually, this one doesn't fly anymore. I broke it. That one's another video sometime down the road. But I group all of these kind of together because you can see a lot of them have the 65mm propeller, and they all pretty much perform pretty similarly. Now, the motor KVs and all these are going to vary, and kind of funny, I think that when it comes to these small little like 1102, 1103 motors and motor KV, it's kind of like C ratings on batteries. It's like, I don't really believe the numbers. I have to wait till I fly to really know what the KV is like and how it's going to feel. Probably, let's see, I would say the flywheel motors here are probably the most true in terms of the KV feel. Obviously this is a total mod here. This does not come with the flywheel motors. This is an iFlight product, so keep that in mind. I replaced the motors on this one. But of all the 1103 motors out there, yeah, it's hard to really know what KV is actually true. You're going to have to actually put it on a machine and actually measure it. There's so much variety in KV. That's why I kind of like think of it as battery C rating, because it's kind of all over the place. But you know, barring that, I think performance of all of these is kind of similar. These are all in that sort of same weight class, in that between like around 75-80 grams roughly. Again, go watch those videos. I don't remember the weights offhand. Can't memorize any of that stuff. But they all pretty much perform okay, pretty good. Reliability, it's going to all depend. Like, all of these still fly for me. I mean, I've crashed them all, but they all still work. But you know, your mileage may vary. It's going to depend on your environment, how you fly, etc. So all of these are kind of pretty similar. So I would say, if you're considering any of these, then I would just base on price only, and just try and go for the one that's the best value, whichever one has coupons or whichever one is on sale. Then, because I think that any of these are going to be pretty much going to give you the same result, in my opinion. You're not going to be able to tell too much difference between these models here. Okay, so now we're going to talk about these guys here. This is the Gipper Rc Phantom and the Tiny Hawk Freestyle, and I set these aside because they're top-mounted battery models. And out of all of these, this is the only ones. I think the rest of these are all bottom-mounted batteries, and they do fly differently because they are top-mounted batteries. The CG feels a little bit different. It's not a whole lot of difference. The feel is marginally different. There's going to be people out there are going to claim that it makes a huge difference. You know, you can alter that in PID tuning, and you can just by changing the feed forward on the roll axis. Also, you change the eye gain and feed forward on the roll axis, you can probably make a bottom-mounted battery toothpick feel like a top-mounted battery toothpick. So, given that if you can change it with just tuning, I can't see there's that much of a difference. However, what does make it nice is that with the battery on top, you can just land it on pretty much anything, and it won't, like a lot of the bottom ones, when they land, they'll bounce, they'll flip over, especially when they anything hard like a sidewalk. But these, they'll just land on the frame, and that's one of the nice things about the bottom mount, in my opinion. But in terms of flight characteristics, not a whole lot of difference. Now, I would say the Gipper Rc was one of the first ones I reviewed, and it's definitely still one of the best ones. I think the Gipper Rc motors are pretty consistent in terms of their feel. I'll talk about these props here in a second here, but a lot of things have changed. Obviously, a lot of other models have come out since the Gipper Rc model came out. This is still a good flyer. I still would recommend this one. It is, again, a little bit more on the pricier side compared to some other ones out here. So it's like, well, if you can get one of these other models for, say, 75% of the price of the Gipper Rc, is the Gipper Rc worth 25% more? It's going to be for you to decide. It's it's going to be really hard to say there's going to be that much of a performance difference. Now, when we talk about performance, people will talk about the Tiny Hawk Freestyle here, and yeah, this is not one of the best performers out there. In fact, it's probably, out of all of these, the slowest. Yeah, I would say it's probably the slowest. You can run this on 1S, as you saw in my previous videos. I had a video on running this on 1S, and yeah, it's slow, but it performs okay. I mean, it's not perfect. I mean, the camera is not so great, the VTX is not so great, but it's a pretty good out-of-the-box experience. You basically just plug in your batteries, charge them up, go fly. It flies pretty good out of the box with the tune it has. It's pretty predictable, and the motors they use on here are pretty good. I think the 7,000 kV on here is actually pretty accurate, and you run it on 2S. The way it flies is totally predictable, and that's kind of important. You're not going to get too much crazy power, but you're going to get good flight characteristics, and that's why this one is one I still would recommend for someone just starting out. They can maybe even go to 1S and then move up to 2S.